Alright, for this video, a lot of the topics I was planning to talk about were mentioned in the previous discussion video, so I think I'll skim quickly through those subjects and then we'll see how much new information we can cover. In this video, the main thing I want to establish are the core values of the Qyaalyon. They have a culture with a lot of flexibility and room for all sorts of values, a loosely governed society that functions pretty smoothly, but in order for that to work, there needs to be some level of unity, a cultural homogeny with a few central beliefs. The primary value their culture is built on is a shared love of personal freedom. This maintains and is maintained by the self-selecting flock system. You are free to live how you want, and I am free to live how I want. If our ideals are irreparably opposed, then I can simply go live how I want somewhere else. The downside of this is that there isn't much diversity of thought within each flock, but to the Qyaalyon, this is an acceptable alternative to being forced to live by another person's standards. Qyaalyon believe that to force your will upon another is to make them live dishonestly, and therefore is one of the worst offenses you can commit. Deeply tied to living honestly is their regard for honor, or the ability to keep your word. In Qyaalyon society, if you willingly make a vow, it's up to you to keep it. Nobody will force you, but they will certainly lose respect for you if you break it. When flocks negotiate with each other, they need to have a reliable code of honor that each will treat the other fairly, and so being known as a vow keeper gives you standing. This is also why flock loyalty supersedes loyalty to your extended family. To Qyaalyon, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The family you choose is your family, above and beyond actual biological ties. But living freely and with honor are tied to personal responsibility, or the ability to carry weight. A child must be carried on migration. A child must be fed and cared for and kept safe and taught how to behave, a net drain on the flock's resources. A teenager can fly themselves, and while learning to hunt, they begin to contribute back to the flock. What brings a teenager into adulthood is when they cross over from taking care of only themselves to being able to take care of others. They must learn to carry more than their own weight, bringing back food not just for themselves, but for the whole flock, and the elderly back home, and the cold winter ahead. I think this idea of being able to carry weight, whether taken literally or metaphorically, represents giving more than you take from your community. So it comes full circle. The ability to fly severs Qyaalyon from the earth. They can go anywhere and live however they want, but the plains are lonely and dangerous, and they want a flock of like-minded people. In order to gain acceptance and trust, they must provide value to their flock, and carry more than their own weight. Then, the vow is a mutual contract between a hunter and a flock. A hunter will provide for their flock, and when the day comes that they can no longer fly, the flock will in turn provide for them. Respecting others' free will, keeping your word, and carrying weight. 3 central values that all Qyaalyon are taught to share, no matter what else they believe. This is not to say that Qyaalyon are completely peaceful. They do fight, often, but fighting usually comes down to a display of skill. Children are aggressive and high energy, frequently getting into spats. Hunters from different flocks compete for territory. However, when they fight each other, they do so without weapons. Fighting hand-to-hand is about proving your individual dominance. Fighting with a weapon shows an intent to actually harm your opponent. To keep serious conflict from breaking out, a flock is expected to hold its own members to account. Qyaalyon do not believe in prisons and would consider the notion horrendous. If a low-level misdeed is repeatedly committed, such as withholding hunting spoils or refusing work, or generally making a nuisance of yourself, you might be banished from the flock. You can set out and find another, and there's forgiveness in that. The chance to start fresh and not repeat the same mistakes. But if you commit a more serious crime, such as harming a child or mistreating your partner, you might find that word of your banishment and why has preceded you, and no other flock will accept you. There is a chance you could start fresh if you went to a flock far, far away, but if not, you are free to live out your cursed existence alone in the wilderness. However, if you commit a crime too heinous to even speak about on YouTube, the Qyaalyon will simply kill you. They consider death a much kinder punishment than taking away your free will. Their core values also guide a Qyaalyon's relationship with the animal life around them. Qyaalyon dislike all forms of animal domestication, considering it deeply immoral to break and subject an animal to your will. Whether the animal be a beloved pet or mere livestock, to the Qyaalyon it's all a form of spiritual enslavement. However, to meet an animal in an open, honest battle, that is honorable. And no battle is more honorable than that with Qyaalyon. Qyaalyon is a highly intelligent type of lion or tiger. It is huge, with jutting fangs. Its fur is striped in a unique pattern of gold and copper. Qyaalyon was one of the goddess Shiqoba's more controversial gifts. In the early days of the Qyaalyon, she judged that the plains population was growing a little too quickly. A delicate balance was needed due to the voracious appetites of her little quail people. The quicker they expanded, the more resources they would strip from the land, and in a few hundred years, it might become unsustainable. So the goddess gifted the plains with man-eating lions. It was a questionable decision. The god Everestus had been in favor of just gifting them a good old-fashioned plague. Nash-Gyotso lions frequently attack lone hunters. They hunt by moonlight, and Qyaalyon do not like to be separated from their flock after dark. Clever lions are even known to steal fledglings away from their bateaus during the dead of night. If a lion is spotted prowling too close to their campsite, a hunt is necessitated. As discussed before, fighting the Nash-Gyotso is a bid for glory, usually, but not exclusively, undertaken by young males seeking to prove themselves and win lifelong respect by wearing fang earrings. A battle with the beast is dangerous and should not be taken lightly. It must be done only with a simple hunting knife. Seeking out Nash-Gyotso is about facing the wilderness and all of its dangers alone, proving your right to exist in such a perilous and unforgiving world, proving that Qyaalyon, not Nash-Gyotso, were Shiqoba's highest creation. Of course, it's also possible that the ritualistic solo hunt was also Shiqoba's suggestion, as another means of population control. Not all who undertake the hunt return. Many fail to prove themselves the apex predator and instead become the prey. The acquisition of food is the primary concern of most flocks, but there are flocks who act more as specialized guilds. They don't do much hunting, and the hunting flocks are expected to contribute to filling their winter storehouses. There might be many guild flocks, but right now I've only identified 3. The Healers Guild is based in the winter towns, whose elderly population will require the most assistance anyways. They operate the healing bateaus and train new members with the specialized medical skills they practice. Because this flock does not migrate, it is one where flight is not required, and you will not have to retire from it as you age. The younger, flighted members, while based in town, are available to be sent out to gather medicinal herbs or to attend wounded members of migrating flocks. They do try to make sure that at least a few members of each hunting flock knows some of the basic emergency medical skills. To join the Healers Guild takes a high commitment and a lot of learning, so vowing yourself to this flock is no light decision. Because they live slightly isolated from mainstream hunter culture, I think they would often find partners within the Healing Guild, raising families within it and hoping that their children become healers as well. This would lead to a clear medical subculture forming within each winter town. While commitment is important for the Healers Guild, it is not at all important for the Messenger Guild. The Messenger Guild is also based in the winter towns. It is entirely made up of young people at the height of their flight prowess. Messengers join this guild for the promise of adventure and importance, but they tend to bore of the job within a few years and return to migration life. The messengers' primary role is to guard their winter towns during the migration months, and to assist the elders who cannot themselves fly out to the flocks and relate news. Because the elders inhabit the only centralized towns, they usually coordinate communications between the disparate flocks. Fleet wings are a requirement for a messenger, and the hardiness to hunt and camp alone in the vast plains when traveling long distances. Fledglings may look up to the messengers as the coolest hotshots around, however when they grow up they will realize that it's a job promising more glamour than it delivers. And the third guild is made up of the priest of Shiqoba. Qyaalyon revere Shiqoba, goddess of flight. They think of her almost as you might think of your mother if she had died in childbirth and all you knew about her were stories of her goodness that nothing must ever be allowed to contradict. But she was never one to demand much in the way of organized religion. She was rather more of a guiding figure, teaching her children personally and instilling them with the 3 core values. Thus, her priests are similar. They fill a role similar to that of a modern therapist, though in practice they come across a bit more like fortune tellers. The priests talk to an individual needing guidance, taking in their clothing, speech, and behavior, piecing together what they can of the individual's personality, history, and desires. Priests will try to intuit their faults and true needs, and offer them the best wisdom possible. It is then up to the individual whether or not they want to implement that wisdom. Thus, there are several qualifiers that make for a good priest. They must be patient and introspective, a good listener and observer, and hopefully gifted with a degree of spiritual intuition. Priests are also based in the winter towns, but they're rarely home. They follow their own migration routes, dispersing and flying alone, visiting the flocks one by one, staying for a week or 2 at each. There they will advise anyone struggling and fulfill their other duties. They might counsel the yin and tae, as priests are more connected to the other flocks and will have a broader knowledge of the plains, the weather, and the herds. They might settle low-level disputes and mediate personal conflicts. They observe infants and young children, and offer the parents guidance on the child's personality and their upbringing. They might even advise the naming of these children in accordance with what they observe. They also witness and officiate sacred vows, an oath to repay a debt, a promise to a friend, partnership vows between couples, and commitments of young hunters to their new flock. The priests act as an intermediate during such oaths, using their connection to the spirit of Shiqoba to open a channel between the oath taker and the goddess. A vow made before a priest is a vow made directly to Shiqoba, and to break such a vow is to reject her blessings and invite misfortune upon your flock, in the form of drought and bad hunting and cold, lean winters. Priests preserve and decorate certain skulls out of respect and tradition, usually of particularly notable yin and taes, but they do not fully subscribe to these skulls as houses for souls belief of the Laotians. After all, everyone knows that the soul really resides in your wings. The reason for Qyaalyon's fairly grounded attitude towards religion is primarily their separation from the other races and species of the world during its early history. Shiqoba was their patron goddess, but Qyaalyon rarely had interactions with any other figure from the pantheon. They were not part of the larger mainland culture that formed outside the plains, for whom the gods and goddesses played a more central role in founding. And so, even today, the gods are not a central focus of their lives. They might occasionally thank Shiqoba for the gift of wings, or pray to Evaristus while caring for a loved one through sickness. Or during a bad storm, they might distract the children by telling stories of Delphinius. Racing through the sky is a black lion, lightning flashing and thunder echoing with every touch of her feet as she leaps between the clouds. But even the priests know in their heart of hearts that the gods are dead and gone. They might watch down on their creations as though through a dream, but they are no longer an active part of the lives of the people of Teom. Alright, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more of my work, you can subscribe to me here on YouTube and follow my Instagram. There is a Discord server and it's getting really interesting, so check the description box. And I also have my main YouTube channel for sewing and another Instagram for that. See ya!